So, hello and welcome to our Technology Asset Inventory live webinar. Just an information during the recorded session, all the participants are muted. If you have questions, please use the chat function and we will answer this.
Okay, we want to catch up on some of the items that you may saw on the previous webinars that we had in the past. So in the past, there were a lot of challenges discussed very briefly. We want to pick them up and also introduce a little bit of the new functionalities or also the new tools. Just to name one of my favorite ones, it's the challenge of data quality.
Yes, sorry. Not only data quality is a challenge, but we are the opinion data quality is the highest challenge.
Yeah.
But we would like to discuss also the other challenges, for example, cloud environments, container technologies, or bring your own licenses.
Yeah, true. So, as Lara said, one of the biggest items, and that's what we would like to start with, is actually data quality. So when we speak about data quality, we have to bring some of them up first. So we've summarized them in, let's say, 6 categories or 6 topics that everyone could actually refer to. And we also have the opinion that everyone has kind of a occurrence of it. So everyone faced that already in the past, more or less at least.
Yes, in the topic of data quality, we have several challenges. For example, we get or we have different data sources, for example, SCCM, Active Directory, or RayVentory. And furthermore, we have different data types. So, for example, we have user information or some commercial informations or data, and also technical data. And they are located on different places. So we have on the one side cloud and on the other side on premises.
Also, sometimes a little bit unrecognized or more or less not considered entirely is the fact of the degree that you have in your environment of virtualization and also the technologies that you're using behind them. Because that's also a very major factor of data quality. As Lara also said, the places. And one of them is, especially for the cloud area and also for the cloud native products, or in general, also the topic of the containerization. So every of it somehow leads always to a challenge of data quality or the overall picture of the data. When we put all of them together, we come to the conclusion that we have just a huge amount of data on different places, coming from different sources, as Lara said, different type of data. So actually, it's like data is everywhere, and we have to somehow bring them together. That will be the first step. Still then, even if we did this, it's still the issue about the quality then. We just brought them together, right? And I would like to quote a colleague of ours here, how to say it friendly, not so good data is coming in, so not so good data is coming out. And we have to make sure that exactly this is not the case. So right now, focusing on the area of data gathering, since we're talking about data quality. We would like to speak a little bit about the ETL process. Some of you may know this already. So that would be the first step that we are going to do in order to increase the quality of the data that we have. So what is actually the ETL? I'm trying to simplify it as much as I am capable of doing it. So it's extract, transform, and load. So what does it mean? Extract obviously is something where you get the data from. So your sources. Transformation is then what you do with the data coming from your sources. So, for example, concat the data, cut something from the left, cut something from the right, that you get the data in a form that you would like to have it, and in a form that you are capable of working with. So also there may be occurrences of aggregation, that you put data together or convert from different types of it. And last but not least, enrich your data also with maybe facts that you are not able to get technically, but it's written somewhere, or it's in your mind, or it's documented somewhere. That is also something that needs to be considered during the ETL process to fill the gaps that you actually have. At the end, once this is done, you have the load. So putting everything together and make it available for either multiple sources or just make it available for anything that comes further. I have an example here just to show very high level how something like this could look like. So extract area, we have 3 different data sources. We have Active Directory, we have SCCM, and also we have RayVentory, which is, by the way, the most accurate scanner in place right now. So let's speak about the data from Active Directory and the fact that we would like to have a host name. So let's think about that. The Active Directory may bring this data in, but in a different format than the others do. So for example, it always starts with CN equals because it's a distinguished name, but we just would like to have a part of it, the host name. So what do? In the transform area, we cut something on the left, we cut something on the right. Then there's SCCM. SCCM is a nice data source that brings us the host name from the data field as it is, and we can use it as it is. So, well, that's good. And then we have RayVentory. And for example, RayVentory has a data field that is called FQDN for fully qualified domain name. So it's a combination of host name and domain. But we just want to have the host name out of it. So again, we have to cut something from the right. So that is basically the process that happens inside of this transform area. Once that is done, everything will be consolidated in the load. And in other areas, you would say it's a join or a distinct. So you put everything together, and at the end, instead of 3 same host names, you will just have 1 host name left. And there's also the point of filling gaps along with it, because just imagine that Active Directory will bring you the most accurate data about the evidence of a device, but you would also like to have more information like CPU or maybe the information about SQL databases running on servers. In the past, we have experienced that SCCM may struggle with the information of SQL Server, but RayVentory doesn't, right? Because it's the most accurate. So what are we going to or trying to achieve here? We are trying to do, based on the prioritization, to have, for example, the host name from Active Directory taking the CPU because it's obviously the most accurate data from SCCM. But on the other hand, RayVentory has the most accurate in the area of SQL Server, and we want to have at the end the most accurate data overall. So we are putting the bits from the different sources together to have the best quality data. And this kind of approach is then overall for all the topics that we have, not only for the technical inventory, but for my opinion, it was easier for me to explain it on the technical level here. So we discussed this further. How could this look like? How to bring that that data in one place?
Yes, and when we are speaking about the topic data quality, so the biggest challenge is to get the whole transparency of audio data. And yeah, you can see our solution and the full transparency of the data. For example, you have the quantity assessments like your inventory sources. You can see directly where are your gaps and also how many devices are found when you are getting inventorized. And also the quality assessments, for example, of your software portfolio. So in many cases, a company have lot of application installed in the company, And for example, there are 80% with the same business function, but 20% are commercial and the other are freeware. And here in the quality assessment, you get the overview or the transparency of your software portfolio, and also of the vulnerability information. So here you can see what is the application you have in your company with the most risk or vulnerabilities. And because of this information and the transparency here, you can take actions, because you get directly a recommendation. For example, for your software portfolio, you can see, okay, how many applications I can delete or I have to update. And the same as for vulnerability management. So you get directly the recommendation which software must be updated to eliminate the risk in your infrastructure. And all this is from technology asset management, build the bridge to unified endpoint management.
And as you already hear out of it, it's not the traditional way of SAM. I mean, SAM is not just including licensing. It's also the part of security that Lara mentioned. To use the data that you already have, and SAM has a lot of data because it brings a lot of topics together. To utilize and use that data. So doing real SAM, so software assessments, maybe some of the remediations of your portfolio, because you, as Lara said, there's freeware that you could use instead of commercial license and so on. So everything that you already have is already a very good basis to do more, let's say, kind of assessments, at your place. Another big challenge that was mentioned is also cloud environments.
Yes, and most companies have 100 or 1,000 applications installed in its environments. So it makes very difficult to manage these. And I think the next slide is a very good picture, because it shows that the infrastructure is growing. So as we said, the data is on different places. We have different types of data. And now the area of cloud is growing. So that's why we would like to go more in detail about cloud environments here.
I mean, what we faced in the past is also the fact that when we speak about cloud, the opposite may speak about a different cloud. Huh? So maybe we should start with that. So when we speak about cloud, we have to distinguish between, let's say, three major variations. So the one is software as a service. Then we have platform as a service and the infrastructure as a service. I think software as a service may or may not be painting clear. It's software for an end user. So it's the real UI that you see. So you're not acting with the backend, you're not acting with server and databases and so on. You're working with the application. So someone hosted the application for you and you are the application user. On the other hand, platform as a service and infrastructure as a service is a little bit different, because it's exactly not the same. It's using the layer below, not only the UI that you have. You're working with, for example, the operating system, or for platform as a service with the middleware, database, and so on. So it's more focusing on software developers rather than end users. The same is for infrastructure as a server. It's more focusing on IT administrators. So in general, cloud always provides the resources to do all of it, but it depends on the layer or the level that you are working with, and also the focus. So as we can see, end user, software developer, and IT administrators. So why am I bringing this up? It's because in technical asset inventory, it's important to distinguish between them, especially platform as a service and infrastructure as a service is for us just a regular system that we are going to do an inventory on. So it's nothing new for us. We don't care whether it's here or somewhere else. And it's the only difference here is this software as a service, because there's no machine that we where we do an inventory on. It's the application that we, or the back end of it, that we have to where we have to get the data from. So let's quickly dig into the technologies that we have in place in order to do the inventory or technical asset inventory from platform as well as infrastructure as a service. Commonly, we are speaking about 4 major scanning methods. Maybe you know them already. So we have, I think, a very simple and self-explanatory one is the agent-based method. It's in the software that you are going to install on your target system. That software or the agent is pre-configured. So that means it knows exactly when to do what exact action. It is as it is installed on your target. It also means that the target is the one that does the inventory. Zero touch, on the other hand, is the complete opposite of it. It's because it's entirely relating on network communication, and it does not require any installation of the software on your target system. So it uses APIs, for example, to get the data. And you can somehow imagine this like an interview, because I am asking questions as the interviewer, and the opponent or the opposite is just answering. And I am writing down the answers. So I am the one that is initiating the scan, is the one that is generating the inventory. And that's a major difference to all of the scanning methods here. So again, agent-based, something is installed on a server or on your target, it will generate an inventory and upload it. Zero touch, on the other hand, complete opposite way. Network-based, we are going to be the one that initiates the scan. We are going to be the one that is generating the inventory. Then we have something in between. That is called remote or portable. So in between, why is remote in between? It's because it doesn't require an installation, but somehow we are touching the system. So it's not the agent nor zero touch. So it's right in the middle. We are telling a system or connecting to a system and tell them to execute the scanner. So please go ahead, execute the scanner, generate the output file, and then please give it back to me. And once you've done this, please clean everything else behind you up. And that's actually a good approach, especially when it comes to network restrictions, open ports and so on. It may be an advantage over the zero-touch technology. And then we have wouldn't call it tiny, but we have a portable solution, a small command line scanner. And in the most cases, it's very underrated. Probably I said this before in the other webinars already, but I would like to mention it again. The portable solution is flexible because you can put it wherever you want to, as long as it is reachable. That means local USB stick, intranet, website. However, as long as this executable is reachable, you can do the inventory. So you can, that also means that you can do scans of offline devices, for example, because you can put it in a USB stick, plug it in, execute the scan, and take everything with you. But also, you could use already existing infrastructure. So, for example, one of the biggest customers that we have scanned more than 600,000 devices, mixed, it's on-prem and cloud, and they are entirely using portable. Why? Because we used infrastructure, in particular a software for automation that was already in place. So we did not have to struggle with security team and so on. So we just reviewed the scanner and utilized it. And this automation tool now executes the portable scan and takes everything with it. So it's entirely responsible for performing the inventory. And that's why I'm saying it's very flexible, because that allows us to perform the rollout of this portable solution and also the entire scan of the 600,000 servers in a very short time. Okay, so we spoke about SaaS application. That's something that I did not dig into, but Lara will.
Yes, of course. So we are thinking about how we can get the transparency also for the cloud environments. That's why we have created a collector store, so you can use different collectors for different sources, especially for your use case. So, for example, in the current situation, we all know it, but every company have the challenge to act directly because some of employees are working from home or get in a home office, and the companies have to reorder some licenses, and that's why I will show the example of O365, because here we have some information of our data. So as we said, the user data informations and also the commercial, the license informations. For example, here you can directly see or get an overview of the licenses and the use, because we see JAMA licenses, how many are active, and also for OneDrive, SharePoint, or so on. And also we can see which license are active. So for example, the E5 plan is very, very expensive, and when we see, okay, the most of our employees are working with the E5 plan, but still not need all the products, so you can eliminate here the plan and switch to another, because you have here all the transparency of your data directly.
License is actually something where we have to look at it again. So for example, bring your own license. So we had a feeling that this is also a pain point for a lot of customers already. And there was always the question, well, it's not really technical grabbable, not always. So we have some of the vendors that provides this information, especially for the hosted ones or the hosting ones, whether or not it is a license that a customer owns or the host themselves. So who's bringing the license with you? We had some projects where we did the following. We have the scan engine, as you may know. The scan engine is responsible for all the all around the scanning. So everything that comes down to technical asset inventory is actually done by the scan engine. That also means that potential data that is not technically grabbable can be enriched already in that area. So we have a request to enable custom data fields, so kind of properties that you can assign to a certain device. And that's what we utilized in order to route through the information, whether this is a provided license or an owned license. That's what you can see here also. At the end, and this is really important because then we are back to our ETL process, is to enrich the data that we have with the information that is maybe not technical grabbable. So for example, where's the license coming from? Is it provided by the provider, or is it provided by the customer or by myself? And that's again the idea of this whole hub. So bringing all kinds of data together, merge it, enrich it, and then make it available where we are in the load phase for other components or other areas like SAM, like HAM, or whatever assessment that you can imagine. So whatever business case you have, you could utilize the data collection area already and form it in a way that you can work with very well. Then another point is the container technology. And actually, we already spoke about it in the past, but we have new, let's say, insights about it. And in this case, we would like to rephrase someone. So actually, the prediction of Gartner that says by 2022 that a lot of global acting organizations will have more than 75% of their applications containerized. And as of today, we have less than 30%. So there's a huge growth scale for it, and also a huge need to take care about these containerizations, and especially for the SAM HAM part, to know what happens inside or what happens in general. The actually issue about the containerization is, and this is another quote here, is that people are forcing or pushing to have the on-premise world in a container because it may be cool. Maybe someone told them that it's easy to deploy and why don't you just use Docker? But it's not always the case that it's supposed to be like that. So a lot of people do not concern about the risks that they are engaging there, because the products are not meant to be used like that, but they still do, and it may be still capable, and they're pushing that into that little container bin. All right, so let's start with something that we did in the past. In the past, we've done, let's say, something that is more reflecting to discovery, so evidences. When we did a scan, or when we are doing a scan, we can see that there is a container running. We can see what it is, more or less. We have kind of hints and evidences what it could be. And let's speak about the best case. The best case would be that we can get all the information of the running container using environment variables, container name, the images that are running, or the layers of images, to identify what product could it be that runs inside of the container, or what image was it in the past. So let's say we identified that there is a SQL Server because of the image layers. We can tell this is the image layer that comes from Microsoft, the first, let's say 20, and that reflects that this is a SQL Server. That would be the ideal way. But who can guarantee you that inside of it, it's still SQL Server? And it's, or maybe it's not only a SQL Server, there are additional software components inside of it. So no one can guarantee this. And you can't read this from outside. So this, what we did in the past, is similar to a discovery, because outside information that may be sufficient or not. Together with a very friendly customer, we said that we have to go 1 or 2 steps deeper into the container. So first, identify that a container is running, maybe get the best out of it that we already have. But then we have to go inside the container and check the container, what is actually running inside of it. For us, a container is somehow the same thing as a regular target. And that's what we used. Of course, we changed because it's a container and needs to be treated somehow differently, but overall, the approach is still the same. Identify a container, it's like getting devices from Active Directory, and then do the inventory of it. And then build up the relations so you can see who is belonging to whom. And you can also see what exact application is actually running in that container. Just to name you one that is more or less sensible about the licensing part is Java. But I mean, we all may know the license terms of Java, so you can imagine how critical it could be if you have Java just by accident in every container that you're going to deploy. And that's a real pain point. And that's why we are working with them to go exactly the 2 steps deeper, to identify them and reflect your risks, reflect your correct inventory, and have the highest quality data there. Okay. So that was already 1 foot into the direction of what is actually coming up next. And we have a couple of them.
Yes, of course. So as we mentioned before, the onboarding of many collectors is still in process. So if you have some use cases or some needs of some sources, you can contact us and we will develop it together. So every day we are growing with some new collectors, and it's still in process and new collectors coming every day. And the second thing is that we thought that RayVentory goes cloud or RayVentory goes web, because as you can see on the screenshots, RayVentory Data Hub is already web based, but also our scan engine will goes in the web UI and hosted in the cloud.
And that's also, again, one step in a very good direction. And not only we as the vendor, as well as a lot of customers actually appreciating when we are moving the direction to web-based application. And we are going to pick the whole story of centralization and decentralization that we already do again up and rebuild this. Not entirely, but the major aspects may differ, or major aspects are still remaining. But the way how it's utilized, the way how it's deployed, the way how we are going to use our application in the future will change for sure, and in a good way. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really excited about it, because it also includes the fact, or the point that is listed here, the process scan. So with the web-based application, we are also introducing new functionalities in terms of scan. And one of my favorite ones is the process, or it said process scan, but we do not mean the process. It's kind of a pattern based. So you can define a kind of if this then that structure. So one thing occurs, please do the second step. If not, then go one step further, and so on, or one step back. So you can define your own patterns. There will be a lot of patterns defined by us, because that's the regular basis that we deliver already also. So focusing on SAM and HAM and all relevant aspects of it. But you will always also then have the chance to define your own patterns for the future. Maybe with a pattern builder, it's not really clear, but that would be the ideal way that we are looking at. Speaking about processes and patterns and how to utilize them, Lara at the very beginning mentioned it already. Speaking about the unified endpoint management. So what we do here is, I wouldn't call it unified data collection, but we have the overall picture of data collection. We are trying to, especially with the ETL process, to get everything in one single place, the highest quality of data, the most relevant data that you can even have, and your stage, your hub with everything. But that would be then still build the base, as we said, for assessments, or for further assessments, simply, like the vulnerability data. So what applications are actually affected? But what then, right? So it's listed there. There's a report saying that this application is affected. But what's next? Well, the answer is unified endpoint management. This unified endpoint management is supposed to pick this information up and act on it. So of course you will have to make kind of a UAT process also on top of it, because otherwise it's going to be self-working, which is probably nice, but well, it needs to have some restrictions at some stages. However, the idea is to have everything in one flow, right? So you're starting with the data collection, you identify gaps, you identify risks, you identify applications that you don't want to have, and you can build your process then to have the unified endpoint management doing the rest for you, or automated processes actually. So picking this information up and doing actually something, and not you going process for process for stakeholder, and process for process, and stakeholder for stakeholder to get where you actually want to. That's one of the aspects for the unified endpoint management, bringing the two together, the data collection as well as the endpoint management, and building the bridge behind it, between them. The endpoint management overall, if we did not mention it yet, is actually supposed to manage everything what is an endpoint, right? So very flexible, also web-based. It doesn't distinguish between server or network device. So everything should be managed by one single manager. Let's say that way. So yeah, so I'm really excited. There's a lot of more going on in the background. So if you would like to have more insights of that, so feel free to contact us. We are very happy to give some insights. Also, there's the chance to participate to our Ray Insider program, where you can have the latest builds, test it yourself, do so, bring some feedback, because, well, you may know it, but or not. We're customer driven, so we are working with use cases, and I think use cases is one of the words or buzzwords that I hear a lot more often than I hear cloud. So use cases everywhere. Once you have one, please contact us. We will work this out for you, or together with you. That will be even better, and then we will pick it up from there.
Yes, and now we will start the Q&A session, but not only a Q&A session. So first, it's important to know which challenges you have. So maybe you have an challenge. You can write it also down in the chat function. Let us know. We will help and support you. But yeah, we can start with the questions right now. Okay, the first question is, which scanner do we use for best practices?
Yeah, I think we spoke about this very briefly. So we have our 4 major methods of scanning. Typically, you would use agent-related or agent-based scan for 2 major aspects. The first one is if you want to do metering. If you want to have application usages rather than just the installation of it, then you should go for an agent. But by the way, on our roadmap, there's something different. So again, please contact us. We will give you some insights. However, whenever there's a device that is not always attached to the network and it's actually there's a random connection, let's say that way, for example, for laptops, notebooks, workstations, then you should go for the agent, because it automatically recognizes when there is network connection, and once that's done, it will upload the data at that point. Otherwise, you will always fail because you're relying on network connection, the device is offline, and you will always have a faulty status. On the other hand, whenever it is not desktop, not workstation, not laptop, and so on, I would go for zero touch first. Zero touch doesn't require any installation. That's why a lot of administrators and security guys are actually appreciating this technology. On the other hand, it requires a little bit of network and firewall restrictions and to be opened. Some of the customers are using it already, so most likely you are good to go. But if not, the second method that I would use is the portable. So if you don't have a chance to use zero touch, then go for the portable, because it's lightweight, it doesn't require an installation, and you still have the goal to get your data as it is required. However, as I said, zero touch first. I would always go for zero touch when it comes down to security environments, data centers, servers, and so on.
Thank you, Joe. The next question is the solution available? Yes, it is. So we released the solution, I think it was 3-4 months ago. So you can use it, you can work with it, and yeah, so data hub and also the scan engine with some new functions and so on are existing. It's really Okay, so no more questions?
Looks like we have it then.
Yes. So yeah, thank you for joining our webinar and have a nice day.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.